So I'm glad y'all here today. I hope that you guys are having a good time so far. And I got a message here that I hope really blesses you, and because it's been Lord's been working on me with about this message for a few weeks now, and moving around, doing a lot of different things here in my life. I've just been really excited about this message because a lot of times I'm a little bit of I've been accused of being fire and brimstone type guy, but I try not to be. So I want to try to encourage you today as best I can with how things are going and things like that. So the title of my message today is A Dry and Weary Spirit in Need of His Rain. A dry and weary spirit in need of His rain. So I guess kind of before I get started, how was everybody's summer? Everybody had a good summer? Wow, everybody had a great summer. That's good. Did anybody have a good summer? I mean, down in Houston. Okay. Well, I mean, I hope everybody had a good time. I hope you're able to get away, take some time for a vacation. How many of y'all went on vacation? Oh, now everybody kind of went on vacation. Now we're waking up a little bit. Everybody went on vacation. I went to the beach back in June, so it's been a couple months. So I'm ready for another vacation. I think I should take a vacation quarterly, but my checking account doesn't allow me to do that. But man, it's got hot. It is hot out there, right? What? It's really hot. I mean, you can make brownies in my mailbox right now. It's so hot. It's bad. I mean, it's real bad. I was trying to think back last time it was hot like this, and I think it was like in the 90s when I was a kid that it got really, really, 1921. Yeah, I read 1991 the other day. They said it was this bad, but yeah, it's kind of brutal. Those of y'all don't know me, I'm kind of a weather nerd. I track a lot of weather stuff, and so it was 104 at my house. It's been the highest so far since June 1st to now, 104. And we had a heat indexes that exceeded 120. So it's been toasty out there. I'm looking forward to building a fire, but the Lord has assured me that sometime in November it will cool off. But I've gotten less than 2 inches of rain in July, and I've had nothing in August so far. So it's really, really dry. Everything is all withered up and barely alive, and if it hasn't already died. But we do need some rain, and people are starting to get weary. I had an old high school buddy of mine. He sent me a message on Facebook the other night, and he says, Dan, bruh, is God punishing us? And I kind of laughed. I said, no, He's not punishing us, but, it's been well written of what this world's going to look like when this thing starts to kind of wind down a little bit. He said, man, it just feels like we've done something wrong. I said, well, we kind of have, but I wasn't going to get in that conversation with him. If you would, turn to your Bibles or your phone apps or whatever you have. We're going to be in 1 Kings 18 today. We're going to be a little Old Testament, a little OT, not overtime, but a little Old Testament today. And if you're not familiar with 1 Kings, especially with chapter 18, we read that the land that they're in at this time is in a severe drought, and it's been in a drought for 3 years. So we don't want what we got going on to last for 3 years. No, we don't. So it's been kind of dry over there, and at this time they had a king by the name of Ahab. Anybody ever heard of Ahab? All right, 2 people. That's great. Ahab. So some probably have heard of him, but he was a pretty nasty guy. He was a nasty king, and he was married to an even worse woman, Jezebel. Y'all heard of Jezebel? All right, good. Everybody's up to date. That's right. So Elijah, as a prophet of God, was told by the Lord that he was ending the drought. The drought's coming to an end. And he said he would bring the rain to the land. And he told Elijah to go tell Ahab this. I want you to go and tell him. Now, a lot of things have been happening since then. Jezebel had all the prophets of God killed. She brought them all together and she slaughtered them because she was a Baal worshiper. Anybody ever heard of Baal? All right, good deal. So Baal was... just kind of give you a little understanding. Now, some of you have never even heard of Baal, but, he was a false god. He's a false god. In the Bible, Baal is a name given to several different deities who are designated as false gods or idols. However, it is most often used to describe the specific Canaanite and Phoenician god of fertility and rain. He's going to end the drought, and this guy was supposed to be the god of rain, right? Additionally, Baal is associated with Beelzebub, demons, and the devil. Y'all know that? All right, good. So how did they worship Baal? I'm just going to kind of go down a little rabbit hole here a little bit. So ritualistic Baal worship was like this. Adults would gather around an altar. It's an altar of Baal, and they would take their infants, their babies, and they would burn them alive as a sacrifice to Baal, an offering to this deity. Amid the horrific screams and the stench of charred human flesh, congregants would also, men and women alike, would engage in orgies. This is sick. This is bad. Okay, it's bad. I'm sure that our world today doesn't worship Baal, a.k.a. the devil. So Elijah, on his track to go see Ahab, he bumps into Obadiah, Ahab's right-hand man. And Elijah sets up a little visit with Ahab. So these boys don't like each other. Okay, they got problems with each other. This is typical good and evil type stuff, right? And Ahab, the problem with Ahab was he was really trying to follow. He wanted to have this fear of God, but then he had this fear of his wife and Baal, or Baal, that god over there. So he was struggling with a lot of this stuff. So Elijah, what he does is he says, I want to face off with your prophets. I want to face off with the prophets of Baal. And so they give it to him. And if you don't know the story, Elijah mops the floor with them. I mean, he just utterly just embarrasses them. And then when he gets finished embarrassing them, because their God couldn't do what our God did, he killed them. He slaughtered all of the prophets of Baal. And that day, God proved who the true God really was. Now, let's pick it up here if you go to verse 41, and I'm going to kind of read through this. And I'm going to put on my eaters, as my daughter calls them. And we're going to go to verse 41, and it says, the drought ends. It says, then Elijah said to Ahab, go up, eat and drink, for there is sound of an abundance of rain. So Ahab went up to eat and drink. And Elijah went up to the top of Carmel. And then he bowed down on the ground and put his face between his knees and said to his servant, go up now, look toward the sea. So he went up and he looked and said, there's nothing. And 7 times he said, go again. Then it came to pass the 7th time that he said, there is a cloud as small as a man's hand rising out of the sea. So he said, go up, say to Ahab, prepare your chariot and go down before the rain stops you. Now it happened in the meantime that the sky became black with the clouds and the wind, and there was heavy rain. So Ahab rode away and went to Jezreel. Then the hand of the Lord was upon Elijah, and he girded up his loins and ran ahead of Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. So this is a pretty amazing account, amazing story of what's going on here. He said he was going to end the rain. If you read the verses before, coming in on chapter 18, he said God already told him, I'm going to end the rain. I'm going to end the drought. So this is kind of showing you how God works in this world. And I want to tell you, he's not finished. Now, none of us in here are Elijah, right? But some of our attitudes and some of our ways of thinking may resemble a little bit of Ahab. We may be trying to live out life trying to serve 2 different masters. We may be trying to do 2 different things. And it just doesn't work. Some of us in this very room today are afraid of the uncertainty of our world. Now, I mean, some of you don't watch the news, some of you do, some of you see the things across social media. There's all sorts of stuff out there that's just really, and it's made to do this, to pump into your mind about what's going on in this world. Whether it be factual or whether it not be. But everyone in this room can probably say there is some sort of understanding, maybe concern about how this world is going. I ask at every meeting, do you think it's better today than it was before COVID? It's not. It's not. We're still here, we're still kicking, but things have still changed, and it's that gradual type of deal that happens to us. So there's a lot of uncertainty with our old world. We've taken our eyes off the truth. We've taken our eyes off the truth. We only want to believe and trust in what we can control. And it's real easy to control it. This is probably one of the reasons why you won't ever get me on a roller coaster, because I can't control it. But I get on a dirt bike and I'll ride it all over the place because I can drive it, I can control it. But that's the way it is with our lives. It can't be, this all this stuff that you're going through, that you got that's kind of in your mind and in your spirit, and it's kind of just hurting your heart. It can be more than just work stuff, okay? I know this is kind of a work-related deal, but it could be a lot more than work stuff. It could be, maybe it's a relationship that you have. Maybe it's something with your spouse or your kids or an estranged kid. I don't know. It's some sort of relationship with, maybe it's your relationship with God. It could be that. You see, I'm going to tell you this. You're here today because God wanted you here. You're here because God wanted you here. So some of us haven't been to church in years, but physically we're there every Sunday. That'll preach right there, bro. You could tweet that if you want to. We're weary. Our spirits are dried up. There's nothing coming out of the well anymore. And you feel like you're slowly just dying. It's just like this heat wave we're in right now. You're trying to water, you're trying to do all these things, but you're just slowly watching stuff outside just die. We live on a pond, and each day you go out there and it is going down and down and down. And I got eagles and I got all these other little water birds and stuff. Now they're just having a good old time eating the stuff that can't swim away from them. They're just gorging themselves. But you just see the stuff, it's just getting... Man, we need some rain. We need something to change this. We need something to put out here to bring the life back. We're missing something. We're missing rain. You want me to tell you why we're like that in our lives? Let me tell you why we're like that in our world, in our nation, in our state, in our communities, however you want to put it. I'll tell you why. This is heartbreaking. We lost the wonder of Him. When you were a little kid, you were in awe of who He was. We've lost the wonder. We no longer admire beauty. We don't admire what He's created and what He's done. We no longer fear. We're not afraid. We are not afraid. We don't even respect what He's done. We've lost love. We don't love each other like we should. We've become very dry. Some of us have become weary, so weary. How is there any hope in this? We don't want Him to have His way. Ultimately, let's look at what our world's doing, our leaders, whether it be religious or governmental, political, whatever you want to say. Look at what's going on. We want what we want. That's our problem. We want what we want. We have faced so many downturns and setbacks that some of us no longer believe. Some of us no longer believe in who He is. Some of us no longer believe in having faith in Him. Some of us no longer believe in what He's done. Some of us no longer believe that He's actually up there, that He's actually returning. Some of us don't even believe it because we had so much stuff going on in our lives. We question everything, and we just say, you know what? If this guy, why does He allow bad stuff to happen all the time? We feel like if He isn't real anymore, you've outgrown Him. I've outgrown God. This isn't Sunday school anymore. I've outgrown Him. I don't need Him. It's a dangerous place to be. He didn't answer a prayer, or you lost someone, or you lost something, and if He's so good, why does He let bad stuff happen to me? If He's so good, if He's a good Father, why does bad stuff happen? I don't know. But I know He's good. Some of you have abandoned prayer. We're too busy. We're too busy. My preacher or priest, Dan says, or my bishop or whatever says, it's really not that important that you got to pray and you got to do all these things. Let me tell you something. You better run away from that church. You better run. And if there's an old lady at the door trying to stop you, you better run her over too. how else are you going to have a relationship with Him? I don't know what has caused you to fall back or deny Him, but I do know that you're here right now and you're fighting this thing deep inside of you. And I know you are, because I have as well. And still do fight this battle. It's so easy to just not get up on a Sunday morning. It's so easy to walk right past this thing and not pick it up. It's so easy to not even go to a devotional and you downloaded the app and it's been on there and you're 75 days behind in your daily Bible reading. It's so easy to do all these things because we're so busy and I've got so much going on and all this other stuff. How good is that excuse going to sound when you're standing before Him? How? I didn't have time for you then, but now that I'm dead, I got all the time in the world for you now. And He's going to say, I'm sorry, who are you? That's terrifying. Do you believe that He is who He says He is? Do you believe that? You don't have to answer me. I'm just asking you a question. Do you believe that He came as a baby and He lived among us, and He died for us, and He rose again? Do you believe that? Do you believe He did all this so we may have a way back to Him forever? Do you believe that? Because if we don't believe that, then we have really lost our faith. If you don't believe that, we're faithless. And if you've really lost your faith, there is no hope. You're done. There's no hope. The world today believes more in what we think He can't do over having faith in what He can do. That's where the world's at. We deny Him that. Elijah prayed. I mean, he really prayed. He already knew what the answer was going to be. He said, I'm ending this drought and I'm bringing some rain. And Elijah got up there and prayed anyway. And he got in a position that 95% of us in this room couldn't even get in. His head between his knees on the ground, crying out before the Lord. How many times did he pray? God already gave him the answer. I'm bringing the rain. How many times did he pray? 7. He prayed 7 times. How many times have you prayed about something? How many? 1? Oh, it didn't work out. 2? I must not have a good channel or a line, a bad connection. What is it? It says the servant went 7 times. And he said on that last time, on that 7th time, he said, I see a cloud as small as a man's hand. And I want you to, I want to know how he even saw it. He's looking out at the horizon. Let's just picture it. He's up on this mountain thing, and he's looking out to the ocean. And you got the horizon that goes all the way out there. And he says, I see a cloud the size of a man's hand. I don't have big hands. How do you see that? How do you see that from that far off? I see that cloud. It's little bitty. It's way out there. Way out there. And what did Elijah say? You better get your umbrella, because it's about to start raining. Something so small. God promised him rain, but He promised Elijah to incite prayer. He'd already gave him the promise. And Elijah went up there and began to pray to God. And God gave him that unction in his life to know that I know what the answer is going to be. I know that He has a plan for me. I know that God wants to use me to do something. I know I'm not supposed to be stuck in the sin that I'm in. I know I'm supposed to be rebuilding these relationships that I have. I know that I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm doing. I know these things. But have you prayed about it? Have you sought Him? He said he got down 7 times. That's the thing. He incited prayer in a prophet. None of y'all are prophets in here. I'm not a prophet. Nobody's a prophet in here. But God still incited prayer in him. And he got down in a position that I know I can't get in. And he prayed. I could probably get in it, but I can't get up. But he prayed. Some of you aren't getting this, but God has set forth something in your life and made a promise to you, but He wants to see how bad you want it. He wants to see how bad you really want it. Don't you dismiss God. Don't you dare dismiss God because He starts your promise off smaller than you think it should be. Shame on you if that's what you're thinking. Charles Spurgeon said this. He used this in a text as an illustration of the small signs that precede a mighty work of God. He spoke of 4 certain things, 4 things of tokens of good which prayerful faith clearly perceives when an awakening, a genuine revival is about to come. Real stuff, not fake stuff, real stuff, okay? This is what he said. Christians should regard the following things as clouds as small as a man's hand rising out of the sea. Are y'all ready for this? You can take notes. Number 1. A growing dissatisfaction with the present state of things, and an increasing anxiety among the members of the church for the salvation of souls. That's evangelism right there. If you're okay with your kids going to hell, if you're okay with not picking them up by their bootstraps and dragging them to church. I used to speak at youth rallies, and I would tell this. When I was 10 years old, I had a drug problem. And people were like, oh my God, you started drugs at 10? Yeah, my Southern Baptist deep-rooted mama would drag me to church every Sunday. That was my drug problem. Amen or oh me, huh, Dad? But that's the thing. Do you have an anxiety? Do you have an urgency to see people reach them with the gospel? Isaiah 6:8 is on these wristbands. Here I am, send me. Whom shall I send? Here I am, send me. And it's not for the lighthearted. This is going to take some moxie and some strength to do this. You ain't going to be wimpy to try to reach people for the glory of God. Number 2, when this anxiety leads believers to be exceedingly earnest and importunate in prayer. I don't know what that means, but it means you want to seek Him in prayer. You're seeking God. You have this anxiety, this desire, oh my God, what's going on in this world? What's going on in my family? What's going on in my business? What's going on in my work? What's going on with my friends? You seek it. You want it. And He's asking you, how bad do you want this? Number 3, when ministers begin to take counsel with one another and to say, what must we do? They get into a time with each other and they say, Lord, what must we do? Lord, what must we do? Not, hey, Daniel, what do you think we need to do with the industry of faith? What should we do, Lord? What must we do? That's what this is about. And number 4, when we shall see the doctrine of the individual responsibility of each Christian fully felt and carried out into an individual action. Well, I don't know. I'm not a preacher. I haven't been to seminary. I don't know. I don't know what to do. What should I do? Don't ask me. Ask Him. He'll tell you. But you can't just ask once. Sorry, guys. Everybody in this room is professionals. Were you professionals the first year? Put it to you like this. Some of you in here got 30 years experience in this business. Some of you in here might have 1 year of experience 30 times. There's a difference. There's a difference, okay? In verses 45 and 46, Elijah tells Ahab, boy, you better hit the road because the weather's about to get bad. He told him that. Not in them words. That's kind of a South Louisiana way. And then it says, the hand of the Lord. Listen to this. This is one of the key things I want you to take from this. And it says, the hand of the Lord was upon Elijah. And he outran his horses and Ahab's horses and chariot on foot. Did y'all pick that up from when y'all read the scripture? When y'all listened to it? He outran them on foot. He outran horses on foot. That's pretty fast. This is what I take from that. When we believe in a God who says He is, We believe in His promises in our lives. We have faith that His Son died for us and rose again and ascended into heaven and is coming back. We seek His face, not religion, and we follow after Him. We begin to look away from the pleasures and the things of this world and begin to truly serve Him. Best of all, God allows you to outrun your enemies. Boy, I tell you what, if this was a charismatic church, we'd be blowing it up in here. Y'all didn't hear that. He allows you to outrun your enemy. Who is the ultimate enemy? You can outrun him. You may not outmuscle him, and you may not be clever or more smart than he is, but you can outrun him because the hand of the Lord will be upon you to move you out there. Let me tell you something before I close. Some of you are about to get some rain. Not just in your yard. God, I hope we get in your yard. Some of you are about to get some rain spiritually in your life. Some of you are going to stay in this drought until the prophets of Baal in your life are defeated. That's where you're at right now. In other words, until we make a choice to follow God, our lives are going to continue to have drought and weariness. You ever live through life and things are real good and things are real bad. Things are real good, things are real bad. I think that's the normal side. When you get on this thing where it's like so even keel and nothing's bothering you, something's wrong. The enemy is letting you have an easy life. Mickey, Joe, and I were talking the other day about how people get these big salaries. You know, they ain't got no experience, but they making all these big salaries. I said, man, I don't know how to get me a job like that one day. I said, but I know why God hasn't given me a job like that. He said, why? I said, because I don't need that. Because if I had that, I'd be on the easy street. Smooth sailing. Who's ready for some rain? Not at your house. I'm talking about spiritually. Who's ready for some rain? Who's ready for some rain? I'm ready for some rain. I want some rain in my life. There are parts of my life that are just dry off in the corner, tucked away, getting blasted by the sun. I need that. Not because we physically need it, but because it's a spiritual need. So I ask again, and I'm going to spell it. Who is ready for God to REIGN as Lord of your life? That spells rain. That spells rain. Today is the day of repentance. Today is the day of salvation.